Greetings and salutations. Welcome to a blustery 35-degree February 3rd, 2022 down here in South Texas. I was working on this thing here. I'll tell you what it is in a minute. I've been working on this today. Actually, I was building a new stand for it out of scrap. And it occurred to me that I don't think I've ever made a video about this. This is a 2x72 belt grinder. If you're an OG subscriber, you know that I a few years ago tried my hand at knife making, and I haven't made a bunch of knives, but I've made a few. And this is a tool that I made out of material that I had laying around because I just couldn't sport the bill of a professionally made belt grinder. These things can run up to a couple $1,000 depending on what you get. So I put this thing together, like I said, with scrap material. Let's start at the motor. This came out of a greenhouse. When I was a kid growing up, my family had greenhouses, and one of the greenhouses we had, it was attached to a loading dock. The loading dock caught fire, and we lost a couple of bays of greenhouses, and they were heated with overhead heaters. They have a burner on one end and a fan on the other, and it blows a fire through this ceramic lined metal pipe, and it heated the greenhouse with radiant heat. Well, radiant heat isn't a very good way to heat a greenhouse. It's a woefully inefficient way to heat a greenhouse, and because it doesn't actually heat the air, it just heats the things that the radiant heat hits. This is one of the motors, one of the fan motors, that the exhaust motors on the other end of the burner. That's what this was, and let's look at it here. A half a horse. When you're using it, it's very easy to stop the rotation. So if you're going to build yourself a belt grinder, I would err on the side of bigger is better. A 3-horse motor, single phase, would be great. So I had this big squirrel cage fan thing on it with a exhaust snoot. I took all that garbage off, and I welded on this, I think this is 1.5 inch square, an 1/8 inch wall. Where's my tape measure? I just had it. There it is. Yeah, 1.5 inches. And this is 1 3/16 inches. What's this? Inch. Yeah, 1 3/16 inches. Actually, that's probably metric. This steel here I got from a job I was working on, Fontainebleau in Las Vegas. When the tower was done, they took all the concrete form, they call them flyer decks. It's what supports the floor when they pour the floors. They were taking those down, flipping them over, busting them down, and they had welded this 1.5 inch square tubing to the bottoms as lateral support when they built them at the beginning of the job, and they were piling these things up, and I asked one of the guys that was working there what they were going to do with it, and they said, we're going to scrap it. I said, you mind if I take some? He goes, take all you want. I said, groovy. So I loaded up my truck several times, and I made a lot of stuff with that. And then this 1 3/16 inches tubing was material that the windows, the cases that the windows came in. They had truckloads of these big, huge blue glass panes. The whole side of the building is done with these blue glass panels. And these panels came from China, of course, and they came in these big metal crates. And I cut them up and loaded them in my truck, took them home. That's where all the material came from. This happened to be a piece of a plate that I found in the desert. The only thing I really bought here was this gas strut and this hinge. I got this at a metal supply store, and this is for the belt tracking. I eventually bought this, I think this is a 4-inch crowned drive pulley. I bought that on eBay, but the original one that I had in here was made out of laminated MDF. So I took a bunch of 3/4 inch MDF and glued it together, drilled a hole in it, and put this on my drill press spindle and cut a 5-inch pulley, and I put that on there, and I used that for probably the first 6-8 months before the hole wallered out and wouldn't stand anymore. And then I went and bought this. And then for the idler pulley and the two pulleys on the platen, Those are just skateboard wheels. It's worked. It's not ideal. These bearings are not designed for this kind of an application, but they work. The issue is that they get hot. The wheels do weird things. Recently, I started purchasing some actual parts to build a proper belt grinder. And the first thing I bought was these the platen wheel, designed for belt grinders, to replace this platen. That's terrible. I'm hoping that this will work on here, because I really don't want to rebuild the entire thing just to be able to use it. I'm hoping to be able to replace this, and then replace this pulley, and then replace the motor, and then replace the entire frame. Do it piecemeal. It's going to cost more in the long run. Hey, I just don't have $1,000 laying around for a belt grinder. And I prefer to build it myself, because some of the most satisfying tools that I have are the ones that I built myself. And this one cost me, I think I'm into this right now, its current setup, for, I don't know, maybe 60 bucks. This is my go-to grinder. I use this so often that I sold my bench grinder. And the only reason I used my bench grinder was to polish things. Which reminds me, I need to get a new bench grinder. Probably should get a bench first. I'm going to take this thing off. I'm going to put that thing on, or at least I'm going to attempt to. And I'm going to see if that's going to work with this. Pray that it does, because I don't want to try to rebuild this anymore. It's so pooched. All right, let me set you up over here and you can watch me struggle like a goof. Shorten that. For freak's sakes, can I do that? I can probably just cut these right off here and move everything, and cut this back and move everything back a little bit. So that's stage one. I'm going to dial this in, get this all shortened up, get my fence installed, make sure that this is 90 degrees to the fence so I can actually grind square edges. I think there's too much tension on this belt. This belt's worn out. I need to get some new belts. Yeah, I'll stick around with that. Okay, in the previous iteration, I put this piece here. And also what I did was I notched this tube to get the tube flush with this, and that's where things got kind of crooked. So I got this piece running all the way back to here now, so this is parallel with this plane. And instead of having this one stick out, that certainly would stiffen things up, yeah? Stiffen them. This mount is a lot further forward, so that's why I shortened this up. All right, this is as far as I got yesterday. I got a couple of 3/8 bolts holding this top piece in. The other one's right here in my pocket. Do you see it? This is cocked a little bit. And so the top of this has got to come back a little bit so that this is square to this. Let me get my square and double check it. Where did I just saw it? Where'd it go? Dang it. Where's my square? Yeah, that's right there. Yeah, I could see that with my badass eyes. So this is fixed. This is welded right to this plate, so I can't move this. This, I can waller out this hole and tip this back a little bit, and I should be able to get that straightened out. I'll get this hole walled out and where I need it. I want to get this all bolted together before I weld this. Everything's true and straight. And you might ask, well, why are you being so critical about that? And the thing is that this is why I'm being critical about it. This is where the tracking wheel is going to get mounted. And if this is not square to this or parallel with this, with this plane, if it's not parallel with it, the tracking will change as the tension changes. All right, so that's a lot better. I'm about as far as I can go until the rest of my parts show up. But I am going to weld this piece together, pull it back apart, weld the back side, grind it, put it back on, double check before I go and weld the whole thing up. This is time consuming. The last one I put together in a couple hours. Obviously it shows. This one I'm gonna put a little more thought into because I don't want to do this again if I don't have to. Now I think I'm going to go ahead and make a mount. This is I believe this is a 40-pound strut, if memory serves me, which is more than enough pressure to do what I needed to do. But I need to make a mount. Looks like I used 3/16. I have some of that laying right there on the floor. I also have some quarter laying over there on the floor. So I'll do that. I'll make a couple of tabs, tack weld those on, and get the strut mounted. Inch-and-a-quarter tube for the platen, and wait for my other wheel to show up, and we'll see if this plan comes together or if I gotta rip things apart and re-engineer it. It's probably gonna be like a week, maybe two for me. For you, it's gonna be just about 2 seconds. So I'll see you in 2 seconds. Good morning. Well, it occurs to me that I neglected to grab the camera and start filming. But this is what I come up with. I have 1.5 inch tubing. I have stacked 1.5 inch square tubing. This is for my tensioner. So here's the tracking wheel. It's on a pivot and it can move up and down. But there wasn't a plate on the back to be able to adjust it. So I welded this 1/4 inch plate on the back of the mounting bracket here. And it'll all become clear as mud here in a little bit, because I have 1.25 inch square solid that slips in to all 3 of these. This one's 6 inches long, because this really doesn't need to be adjusted. I just needed an effective way to mount this, and so I'll show you how to come up with. And then I have 2 14-inch solid 1.25 inch bars, and I had to grind a little bit off of it to make a nice slip fit, and I ground a groove in it like this to clear the weld on the inside. And these slip in here for there. This one's going to be for the tool rest, which I haven't made yet. And then this one here is for the platen. Now, the only time that this will need to be adjusted is if I adjust the angle on the platen here. It's gonna, like if I tip this forward so I have more of a tilted work surface, it's gonna release tension on the belt. So you need to pull that back and be able to put a jam bolt in there, which I'm going to install one on both here. And then if I'm changing the table angle, I'm gonna be able to move this in and out. Drilled a couple holes, and then this, and I gotta tap that. Yeah, and that'll get bolted on, and I can adjust this in or out, and this way and this way. So right now I'm gonna grab a 1/4 tap, some Tap Magic, tap these 2 holes, and then I'll meet you back over here at the grinder. That's really nice. A lot nicer than the skateboard wheels, I should say. These are my 2/4 inch plates. That's what I'm gonna make my tool rest from. So I'm gonna use CAD to mock up a tool rest. And if I got enough material left over, I'll make a platen to cover this platen brace. Push this in a 1/4 inch and mount a 1/4 inch piece of flat steel to this. This is the bar that's going to hold the tool rest. Right? So I'll make it just like this so the two bars are interchangeable. So I don't have to think too much because thinking's hard. Then I'll mock up a cardboard aided design tool rest and I'll transfer that. Once I'm happy with it, I'll transfer that to steel. Try to flatten. I got a sledgehammer. I'll beat that into submission. And I'll show you what I'm coming up with. Here's the work platform. And this is adjustable. Let me loosen this up a little bit. So I can't imagine why you would want to use it like this, but you can set this platform up to cut a certain degree into, like, say, you're cutting a bevel into a knife blade, and you can use this fence in this configuration. You can dial it in, cinch it down, and there's, you know, a little adjustability. But in this configuration will not allow you to go 90 degrees. For most applications, I'm going to be using us 90 degrees to the belt. So I'm going to take this piece off, invert this so that this part is up. I made another piece here. This is one way I can do it. Doesn't give me a whole lot of surface on the platen to use, but how much am I going to need, right? This is actually going to be a little bit taller when I put the sacrificial piece on here. But this I can use just as a, you know, a grinding platform. It's not really good for doing knives because there's little support along the sides. But what I can do is install this piece. You can see I got a line here. I'm going to cut this down another 1/4 inch so I can get this right up against the blade, and then I'm supported on both sides. If I need to utilize the full length of the platen to get all the way down here, then I have these two pieces that I'm going to weld together like that. Which will get welded down here, so I can drop that second bar another, what, 1.25 inches. All this is done is going to be for a minute. But this is going to be my grinder setup now. Building my first iteration out of skateboard components certainly was cost effective. I got a lot of use out of version 1.0 with using just skateboard components. But man, those skateboard components create a lot of drag, and it probably takes 1/4 horsepower just to turn the belt using skateboard wheels. And I mean, this thing with these sealed bearings, they just work so much better. Let me plug this thing in. And that's with a worn out belt. Just imagine what that would do with a brand new 36 grit belt. What do we got into it? Looks like I got around $300 wrapped up into this. The only thing I didn't have to buy was this motor plate and the motor and the pipe for the stand. That's recycled. I think it's just 4-inch well pipe. Everything else I purchased. The only reason I'm using this is because it came with a motor. So the only thing I got left to do is blow this apart, clean up some of the welds, and throw a coat of paint on it. Well, there it is, painted up, all pretty like I've already used it. It's dirty. They don't stay clean if you use them. And I just have it plugged into a power strip here. I didn't start out this project intending to remake the entire thing, but as I started getting into it, and it just seemed like the prudent thing to do. So I'm into it for what, 300 bucks? And the cheapest one I found on eBay was $6.99 plus 122 bucks shipping, so $830 plus tax. I'm certainly not into it for that much. The tool rest is definitely over-engineered. You could have really simplified that. And I have an idea for a version 3.0, but I'm probably not going to do that until something fails on this one. So there you have it. I tell you that I have approximately a month's worth of footage to go through to edit this video, but if I'd have had all my ducks in a row at the beginning, you know, this wouldn't have taken so dang long. But there you go. When you're trying to go on the cheap, man, you know, if you're a little bit handy, you can build one probably for less than I got into it. Version 1.0, I was into it for 60 bucks, and that one worked just fine for 5-6 years. When did I make that thing? I don't know. I'll look and see when I put that thing together. I don't think I ever made a video about it, but I think I have a pretty good idea about when I built it. I think it was about 2015 when I built the original version. So that's it for today's video. If you like what you saw, smash the like button and share it with the vast social media network. Like, share, subscribe, click the bell icon, comment in the comment section. And until next time, you have fun, stay safe, shoot straight, keep powder dry. Have a splendid day. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.